I just finished watching Invincible Season 4, Episode 5, and honestly, I'm still sitting here kind of stunned by how hard it hit me. The episode doesn't ease you in at all, it just picks up straight from the tension that's been building since the end of the last one, and right away you feel the full weight of everything that's been simmering underneath. Mark is right there in the middle of trying to process what it even means now that his dad, Nolan, is back on Earth, actively pushing him toward this whole Viltrumite war. And at the same time, there's all this heavy family stuff hanging in the air, like nobody quite knows how to talk about it without everything cracking wide open. What really sets the tone immediately is how the opening scenes stay quiet but loaded with all this unspoken pressure. You get these conversations between Mark and Nolan that feel exhausted and raw, like they're both carrying the last few episodes on their shoulders, and you can sense something massive is about to snap at any second. It's not loud or flashy yet, but you're already leaning forward because you know the calm isn't going to last more than a few minutes, and that slow burn makes the whole thing feel so much more real than if they just jumped straight into action. The brutality in this episode is next level, but it never feels like it's thrown in there just for shock value. Every punch, every broken bone, every moment where someone gets absolutely wrecked carries actual consequences, and you feel it in your gut the whole time. The way the show handles the raw nature of these fights is what makes it stick with you long after it's over. There's no quick cuts away from the damage, no glossing over the blood, the torn suits, or the way bodies hit the ground like they actually weigh a ton. And it all makes the violence feel earned instead of empty or gratuitous. At the same time, the pacing is so smooth and confident that it keeps the story moving forward without ever feeling like it's rushing through the important parts. It lets the quieter moments breathe properly, so the emotional stuff has time to land and hit you right in the chest. Then suddenly, without warning, you're thrown right into the middle of complete chaos, and it all flows together like one long, unbroken conversation that just keeps getting heavier and more intense as it goes. The characters feel so grounded and human, even when they're doing these completely insane superhuman things. You genuinely believe Mark's fear and hesitation. You buy into Nolan's conflicted guilt and the quiet desperation in his voice. You feel the way Debbie is holding the whole family together by a thread, and that level of realism is what makes the tension build so naturally instead of feeling forced or artificial. Then we get to the part that everyone's been waiting for, the Invincible versus Conquest fight, and it is on a completely different level from anything the show has done before. This isn't just another big flashy brawl, it feels deeply personal and vicious in a way that the series hasn't quite touched until now. Conquest isn't treating this like some random assignment or a simple beatdown. He's specifically targeting Oliver, Mark's little brother, and the second Mark realizes what's happening, you literally watch the switch flip inside him on screen. The choreography is brutal and heavy, with every single hit carrying real impact. Every grab, every slam into the ground or through a building makes you physically wince because you can feel the force behind it, like the animators actually put weight and consequence into every frame. What really stood out to me though is how psychological and emotional the whole sequence is underneath all the violence. Mark isn't fighting just to win or survive anymore. He's fighting with everything he has to protect what's left of his family, and you see that pressure and desperation building in every second of the fight. Conquest punches straight through his stomach, starts pulling things out like it's nothing, and Mark is still refusing to let go, choking him out, biting off fingers, screaming that this ends here and now. It's horrifying and intense and visceral, and you're not sitting there cheering like it's some cool action scene. You're just gripping the edge of your seat, hoping he somehow makes it through because the stakes feel so real. Compared to previous fights in the series, this one stands apart because it's not about spectacle or showing off powers. It's about raw desperation, and the emotional and physical cost is right there on screen the entire time, bleeding into every frame. What makes the episode work so well, I think, is how perfectly it balances all of that insane, over-the-top action with the quieter, more emotional beats, without ever losing momentum or focus for even a second. You've got Nolan trying to apologize to Debbie in this awkward, heartbreaking way that feels so painfully human and relatable. And then there's that family dinner scene where everyone is desperately pretending things could still be normal, even though the world is literally falling apart around them. Eve is holding back whatever heavy things she needs to say to Mark because she doesn't want to pile more weight onto what he's already carrying. And those small, intimate moments give the later violence actual meaning and depth, instead of it just being loud noise. The brutality isn't there for cheap thrills. It's there because this Viltrumite war is ugly and messy, and the show isn't afraid to show you exactly what it really costs these people on a personal level. The storytelling keeps everything tight and focused, the pacing never drags, but it also never skips over the parts that matter most, and somehow it all comes together feeling complete and satisfying like a full story in its own right, even though it's clearly setting up bigger things. It's the kind of episode that leaves you thinking about it for hours after the credits roll, because the action and the emotion feed into each other so naturally instead of competing for your attention. Overall, this might honestly be my favorite episode of the season so far, because it doesn't feel like setup or filler at all. It feels like the story is finally hitting its stride and shifting into the next gear in a big way. Mark has clearly changed after everything that's happened. You can see it in the way he fights now, the way he talks to his dad, the way he looks at his family right before he has to leave again knowing what's coming. Whatever comes next in this Viltrumite war is going to be even messier and more painful, and after watching this, I'm actually a little scared for these characters, in the best possible way, because I care about them so much. It sets up so many threads without forcing anything or feeling manipulative, and it makes you genuinely excited and nervous to see how they're all going to survive what's coming down the line. This show has been building toward this kind of intensity for a while, and now that it's here, it feels like they've nailed the tone and the stakes perfectly. That's my full take on Invincible Season 4, Episode 5. It's brutal, it's emotional, it's perfectly paced, and it left me wanting more immediately. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Did the fight hit as hard for you as it did for me, or was it the family stuff and those quiet moments that really stuck with you the most? I'll see you in the next one. Take care.